I would like to call to order the June 15th, 2023 TPA Governing Board meeting. Staff, if you could please call the roll so that we can establish a quorum.
At this time, I am only asking those board members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. As a reminder, you can unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TPA board representative. Steve Wilson. Yvette Drucker.
Here.
Fran Nacklis. Here. Angela Cruz.
Here.
Shelley Petrolia.
Rob Long attending for Shelley Petrolia.
Joel Flores.
Here.
Jim Koretsky.
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Joni Brinkman.
Here.
DeAndre Poole.
Here.
Greg Weiss.
Here.
Marcy Woodward. Maria Sachs.
Here.
Mac Bernard.
Here.
Shirley Lanier. Fred Pinto.
Here.
Michael Napoleon.
Here.
Christy Fox. Joseph Peduzzi.
Here.
Maria Marino.
Here.
And Chelsea Reed.
I am here, and thank you to everyone who RSVP'd ahead of time. If we could, please, we're going to move into our invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I've asked our Vice Chair, Commissioner Maria Marino, to do our invocation, and then following that, please join us for the pledge.
Please bow your heads with me. Let us pray silently together. Each one of us according to our beliefs. Let us offer thanks for the blessing of fellowship around us. Let us be a source of hope for those in need. Let the feelings of love, kindness, and a well-directed yet gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. And as my mom always says, let's leave the world a better place than we found it. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was really lovely. Staff, do we have any modifications to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. Thank you so much. And I see that we've been joined by Marcy Woodward. And do we have anyone attending virtually at all? Nope. All right,
Not at
great.
this time, Madam Chair.
I thought we had, go ahead. Okay, understood. All right, so going forward, I'm seeking a motion to adopt our agenda today. May I get a thank you? So we've got Commissioner Marino, and I'm sorry, my second was Mayor Flores. Thank you so much. All right, great. All right, so we did have Councilwoman Shirley Lanier requesting to participate remotely, but she has not yet joined us. So we'll just go ahead along with that. So if she does join, do we have any objections to her joining? Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along. If we do have any public comments, instructions on how to provide public comments are included in our agenda. Staff, have any general comments been received as of yet today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so pretty exciting stuff happening. We are thrilled as usual about declaring Dump the Pump Day. So this is our proclamation, and I'm going to take a moment to read it. And then I think we also have some of our board members that dumped the pump this month. So we might get some photographs of them while I read. Declaring June 15th, 2023 as Dump the Pump Day. So whereas public transportation is critical in transporting essential workers, reducing traffic congestion and air pollution, and the Palm Beach County Planning Agency vision is safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system. The Palm Beach TPA encourages transit ridership as a safe, equitable, and sustainable mode of transportation. And the American Public Transportation Association brings together hundreds of transit providers each year to raise awareness and encourage everyone to dump the pump. Palmtran, working closely with the TPA, provides 28,000 rides daily and is encouraging everyone from June 10th to June 17th to use their promo code TRITRANSIT on the Paradise Pass app to receive a $5 cash value to ride transit for free. The South Florida Regional Transportation Authority is promoting Tri-Rail with a summer travel campaign to remind travelers of the convenient, safe service to South Florida's airports using Tri-Rail and to avoid the stress of driving. So therefore, all of us assembled in regular session today are declaring it Dump the Pump Day. So thank you all. This has been signed. And thank you to all of our board members who got out of their cars and found other ways to get around. And again, we always encourage everyone to try it at least once a month. Even if you can't hop the bus or a Tri-Rail or a Brightline, maybe a bike, maybe try to walk. It's something that we all talk about doing here. All right, moving right along, we are going to do proclamation. That's it. We've taken the photo, so we have someone new today. We're going to be welcoming Deputy Vice Mayor Rob Long as a new board member as the alternate for the city of Delray Beach. Rob, good morning. And do you want to say hello to everybody real quick?
Hi, guys. Happy to be here. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. All right, so at this time, I'm going to invite any of our board members, if you have a comment that is something that is not already on the agenda, if Ms. Lanier has joined us virtually, just let us know remotely, raise the hand. Otherwise, if you would like to speak, please pop up your card so that we can call on you and share anything that you care to share that is not on the agenda. And I'm going to lean on my vice chair who had the card up first. All right, Commissioner Diaz.
A simple one. I shared our survey, our transit survey, and it was made aware to me that at the end of it, it says save your results or save your responses, and it's not immediately clear whether or not you have to do that. I think it's a Microsoft Forms thing. So if we can maybe fix that, because after you click on that, it requires you to have a Microsoft login, which a lot of people probably don't. And so maybe if we can make it a little bit clearer that you don't have to hit that part.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I did have a link that was on a social media page that wasn't working, and I alerted the TPA right away and they had it fixed within like an hour or two. So that kind of stuff is great. Thank you so much. All right, moving along to Mayor Koretsky.
I just wanted to express my appreciation to TPA staff for its proactive follow-up with town staff, FDOT and Palm Beach County on some issues of concern I've addressed in the last few meetings. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to Mayor Flores.
Yeah, I just wanted to I'll say thank you to the TPA staff for putting together the airport tour. I thought that was excellent. Definitely learned a lot about the work that goes into running that operation, self-sustaining airport that we have, award-winning airport. And I just thought I recognize the staff for putting that together. I think that I encourage the rest of the board, if you have the opportunity to take that tour in the future, to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've really, this year was your goal, and we've done, planes, trains, automobiles, and peer exchanges galore. It's been pretty wonderful. All right, so Commissioner Fox.
Thank you so much. The city of West Palm Beach was awarded a federal grant last week for rail safety improvements along the FEC and Brightline tracks. So we are going to use the money to study and identify up to 3 locations that it might be where a pedestrian bridge might be efficient and safe. And so we are going to start working on that. A huge thank you to Lois Frankel's office for helping us work on that, and our staff who continues to apply for grants and putting rail safety as a priority in our city. And then I also just wanted to mention, I know I mentioned last month about our new mobility, but we have since the last month, our red trolleys have come out of service, and we now have a blue electric van that is in temporarily in place of the trolley while we try some new routes and see what is working best and what we might need to add before putting it out to RFP. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And we're moving on to Vice Mayor Maria Sachs.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. Okay, there we are. Good. Good morning and welcome. Our new Deputy Vice Mayor, City of Delray Beach, Rob Long. But I'd like to invite all of you to a transportation infrastructure workshop next week. You should, I think we sent it to every one of you, the flyer. And I'm very proud to let you know that our Valerie Nelson will be presenting the future of transportation. So we'll also have representatives from Palm Tram, going along with Dump the Pump. And I welcome all of you, especially this group, because this is where the future of transportation begins, right here with your vision. And if anybody would like to have a special spot there, make sure you RSVP to my office. And I'm just so proud to be part of this group and to have all of you looking at the future of transportation, but especially our director, Valerie Nelson, who will be presenting at that time. It'll be on Channel 20, and we're going to have some media there as well. So thank you very much. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you there.
That's also very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so Mayor Weiss.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Vice Mayor, I'm going to miss your program. I think it sounds wonderful. I will be attending the Brightline end of construction on the 21st up in Orlando. So I'll be happy to report back afterwards.
Greg, can we fit into your suitcase and just,
What's that?
can we fit in your suitcase and join you? That sounds pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
the thing is I have to drive up there. You can't take the Brightline, so.
This is great. Any other cards? No? Okay, we'll have another opportunity, of course, at the end of the meeting. And right now I'm going to move on and ask our TPA Executive Director, Valerie Nielsen, to review her director's report.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for the comments and all the active participation of this board. I want to just also thank not only our board members, but our staff who rode transit. You saw it in the collage. All of our staff tried different modes of transit this past week. So that was great. And thank you for the comment on the transit survey. We will add clarification, but that's to save, if you want to save and modify your responses later. Otherwise, they are automatically saved. And with that, I'd like to welcome a couple new staff that we have. Jessica Lopez is our new procurement and contracts coordinator. If you want to stand up and say hello. And then we also have Ruth Del Pino, our new executive assistant. Very excited to have her. And as well as Dina Ligotina, who just walked in. She's covering the front for us, and she's our new administrative secretary. So excited to have them and welcoming them on board. Wanted to introduce them. And then the mobile tours were mentioned. This was a strategic plan item that we had for fiscal year 23. I want to thank our partners who helped us facilitate that. And a special thanks to Melissa Murray, our PR director, who coordinated them, and they were all a success. So we really appreciate everyone who took the time to participate in not only the port, the airport, Tri-Rail, Palm Tran, and which
Brightline and Boca.
Brightline. We went Brightline, Boca Raton, the new station. We did a tour of that. So that all of those were very exciting. And it was great to have our board members get on board and check out all these different modes of transportation that we plan for. So in light of Dump the Pump Day, which is today, we are doing that. The Tri-Transit is a promotion by Palm Tran that Mayor Reed mentioned in the proclamation. So please ride transit if you haven't. If you want to try Palm Tran, it's you get $5 to ride transit for free this week. So please try that. I see our executive director, Clinton Forbes, has joined us as well. So if you have any questions, and we are doing that transit survey all month. So please share it. Please take it if it's for anybody, not only those who don't ride transit, those who ride transit, but we want your feedback. What is going well? What could be improved? What could encourage you and others to ride transit? We want to hear from you. So it's not a statistically significant survey, but it's a way to get some feedback and share with our partners. We did do a bicycle survey last month. We had about almost 200 participants, and it was great feedback. So please share that and take it if you can. And you can just complete it, and unless you want to modify your answers later, don't worry about the Microsoft login. We are also conducting another strategic plan item we had was to conduct walk bike audits, and our ped bike coordinator Valentina has been coordinating those. We did one last week in Boca Raton and West Boca Raton. This Friday we're going to be in the village of Palm Springs, and so we have a couple more this month. If you want to learn more or see the results, you can go to palmbeachtpa.org/audits. When you walked in, we're doing a safety pledge to encourage everyone to be safe while on our roadways. If you can sign that with our special gold pen, because it is a black postcard, and turn it in at the front, we'd appreciate that. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about performance measures for the national highway system, for that the FDOT and the Federal Highway Administration have established and that have come to this board, we will be having a workshop. They will be coming down from central office representatives on August 17th. That's a month that we normally don't have a board meeting, but we're going to have a workshop instead to learn more about that and also talk about some of the performance measures coming up in our 2050 long range transportation plan. So if you are able and interested, please join us. It's really open to anyone, but we're looking forward to hearing from them and asking them questions about that. Just a reminder, bicycle friendly community designations, the application to apply is August 30th. We'd love to have more of our local municipalities receive this designation. And then lastly, lots of opportunities coming up. The US DOT Grant Navigator, that's a resource to be able to have resources on how to apply, find grants, and just a lot going on with transportation. So Safe Streets and Roads for All. Last round, we had 5 local municipalities, including the county, receive about over $1 million of grants. So please, if I encourage everyone to apply for that. It's to create a Vision Zero action plan, and then you're eligible to apply for infrastructure as well. And it's a rolling annual program for over the next couple of years. Lots of resources online. And then there's also a Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation Grant Program as well, coming up August 18th. And I'll just mention that congratulations to West Palm Beach for the recent grant that you received on rail safety. Overall, this past year, we have been tracking the grants that we have been collaborating with our partners to provide letters of support and encourage. And we're about $1.9 million of awards that our local municipalities have received. But in addition, we also partnered with SFRT and provided a letter of support for them for rail safety. And that was a rail vehicle replacement program, $71 million that they were awarded recently. So looking at almost $74 million that we've been able to help support our local municipalities and transit partners receive over this past year. So lots of opportunities going on and upcoming as well. And that completes my report.
Okay, excellent. Do any of our board members have anything they want to review from the report from our director at all? Okay, I just would love to say a couple quick things. Number one, for those of us that had questions when we were breaking everything down about FDOT's provisions, this August meeting is the chance to get those questions answered. So normally we don't have an August meeting, so we've asked the staff to come in and organize a meeting on a day that they normally wouldn't. So we've requested this of FDOT. They're coming down to educate us, and we're going to learn more. So please, since it's something that we requested as a board, it's on August 17th at 9 a.m., just like our regular board meeting would have been. So normally we don't have a board meeting that day, and the staff has planned that for years and years and years. So the reason I'm saying it this way is let's appreciate the staff for putting this together, appreciate FDOT for coming to answer our questions by showing up that day. And then the other thing, speaking of showing up, I want to commend Commissioner Bernard, because the other day during your budget hearing, Julie Battelle rode transit, Palm Tran, and you're going to be going along with her. And I encourage everybody, if we're voting on this stuff, get your butt on the bus, right? Understand what it feels like to ride it, talk to the people riding on it. Your eyes will be opened for you. And I just can't say enough good stuff about it. And that's that for me. Anyone have anything else? Sorry, I said but, okay. Moving right along to the consent agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve our consent agenda unless anyone has something that they would like to pull.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Right. I've got Pinto to move, and then my second was
Cool.
cool. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll move on from that. All right, so our first action item is the motion is to recommend our TIP amendment number 5 for the TPA's fiscal year 2023. I'm sorry. Oh, all in favor. Thank you. I always do that. I know, it's my thing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Greg. I was apologizing too much, got in the way. All right, so I apologize again. So moving along to our TIP amendment, it's number 5 to the TPA's fiscal year 2023-2027 Transportation Improvement Program. So as you know, the TIP is our 5-year funding program for transportation projects in Palm Beach County. FDOT has requested approval of an amendment to fiscal year 23-27 TIP. We have an addition, so if you'd be so kind to give us a presentation, Andrew, just there's a little bit of an update. Right.
Good morning, everyone. Yes. Well, this first one, there's 2 action items today. The first one deals with our transportation improvement program that we're currently operating under. And then the next action item is that second reading of the upcoming tip. So this first one for action today is amendment number 5 to the fiscal year 2023 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program. And for this one, it's really only one product that's being impacted. And it triggers amendment because it's an increase over $2 million and 20%. So I want to talk briefly about what is involved in this amendment. The location of this one, this is the US 1 bridge over the Ermine River. This is up in North Palm Beach, just north of North Lake Boulevard. If you're still unfamiliar with this area, Frigates Bar and Grill is right next to this bridge. And this project adds an additional $10.3 million in funds through different various phases. This is a request by FDOT. And so the phases on the left there in the table include the PE to design, the environmental phase, the RRU, which is railroad and utilities. So increase on that one, right of way, and then construction, and then the total. And in the backup, there is more specifics on why the $10.3 million increase, and I'll just have a few highlights here. And then we also have one of the product managers who worked on this product, the consultant team, on the line if we need to ask additional questions. But some of the major increases were due to just overall increases in unit prices for materials. And then when they're going through the permitting process with the South Florida Water Management District, they requested dredging of the C-17 canal that will dramatically improve flood control for Palm Beach County. So that was added to the product as well. And then the Village of North Palm Beach requested FDOT to temporarily modify the signing and pavement markings during the construction of this. And so that additional item was also added to this request. So those are the main reasons why there's an increase in the total cost.
All right, so to clarify, this is just an amendment to the original tip that was presented previously.
Correct, our current tip.
Gotcha. Commissioner Marino?
For those of you that haven't traveled there, it's a really congested area. So anything we can do to improve it and work with FDOT is greatly appreciated. It's right near the intersection of US 1 and North Lake. They actually did a little bit of a road diet there. It was 3 lanes over the bridge. Now it's only 2, but there was a collapse a while ago. So all of this is just to improve the current situation and make it better for the future. So thank you all. I hope you vote in favor.
Any other questions or comments regarding Andrew's presentation? Any other information required? No? All right, so we'll be doing 2 votes. The first vote is the amendment, which we just heard about, and then the second vote will be to pass the actual tip, which we'll do next for the draft. So for this one, we're going to need a roll call vote. So first, I'm seeking a motion to adopt a resolution approving amendment number 5 to the TPA's fiscal year 23 to 27 tip. We don't have any further discussion, so may I get a motion and a second, please? A motion from Commissioner Marino.
Second.
Second from from Councilmember Drucker. And we're going to go through the vote. We do not have Mayor Wilson here. Next vote is Councilwoman Drucker. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you. Fran Necklace,
Yes.
Angela Cruz,
Yes.
Rob Long.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to wait for the red light to go on. It's a little tricky. I understand. Joel Flores.
Yes.
Jim Koretsky,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Yes.
Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole,
Yes.
Greg Weiss,
Yes.
Marcy Woodward,
Yes.
Maria Sachs,
Yes.
Mac Bernard.
Yes.
Has Shirley Lanier joined us virtually? No? Okay. So Fred Pinto,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Christy Fox,
Yes.
Joe Paduzzi,
Yes.
Maria Marino,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed. Yes. All right. We have a unanimous vote. I couldn't say no at that point, right? All right. Thank you so much. We're going to move on directly to the adoption of our draft fiscal year 2024 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program. Andrew, is there anything that has been changed at all on our tip draft? that you wanna share,
Since the
aside from
last time you
amendment?
saw it last reading,
Mhm.
we had some updated costs that we put in there for Palmtran. I reflected a few of those, and then some minor tweaks to the executive summary. Those are all more, just general language tweaks.
Okay, wonderful. Any further discussion, questions, comments? All right, pardon me? Do you want to do would we like a presentation again? Let's do it.
Sure.
No?
Mr. Long's new, so I can
All right,
through
yeah,
again?
we'll move right along. We've all gotten very familiar with this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So seeing that no one is asking for a presentation, thank you, Andrew, anyway, we appreciate it. This will also be a roll call vote. Again, I'm gonna need a motion. Would you do the vote? Okay, great. So let's get a motion in a second. All right, Marino, and my second? Second from Flores. All righty. Thanks, Melissa.
Steve Wilson is absent. Yvette Drucker,
Yes.
Fran Nakolis,
Yes.
Angela Cruz,
Yes.
Rob Long,
Yes.
Joel Flores.
Yes.
Jim Koretsky,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
I'm voting yes, but I'm also sympathetic to West Palm Beach's stance due to the State Road 7 extension.
Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Greg Weiss,
No, due to the alignment of State Road 7.
Marcy Woodward,
Yes.
Maria Sachs,
Yes.
Mac Bernard,
Yes.
Shirley Lanier is absent. Fred Pinto,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Christy Fox,
No, due to the inclusion of State Road 7.
Joseph Peduzzi,
No, due to the inclusion of State Road 7.
Maria Marino,
Yes.
and Chelsea Reed.
Yes.
Passes with 3 opposed, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Melissa. All right, so thank you again, Andrew. We really appreciate it. You've educated us really well on the tip this year. We've been really great. All right, so we appreciate it. I know we got through our voting pretty quickly today, but we do have a really, really important information item. So I would kindly request everyone to stick around. This is a presentation from our representatives from Miami-Dade and Broward counties. They are moving forward with commuter rail projects along the FEC Railway. So we have representatives from both counties to provide an update, and this is wonderful, right? Because we can always learn by seeing others experiencing what we're experiencing. So I think we have to do a couple things to make that happen. Are we good to go?
Yes, I'm just unsure of if Broward or Miami-Dade County is going first.
Okay, Valerie?
Well, so this is a presentation that we heard at the last SEPTEC meeting, and we requested that representatives come and present. I don't see, I'm not sure if we have our representative from Broward yet here to present their slides. It looks like they're not here yet. So unfortunately, I think we moved through
We got
through
through
our
so fast
agenda
today,
really
yeah.
quick. And they might be maybe on the train on the way here. So yeah, I think that.
Well, do you want to move ahead with any partner agencies that we happen to
Yeah,
have in the room?
Sure. If we have any partner agency updates, we can move to that. Thank you.
We're usually never quite that fast, you guys. That was pretty impressive.
Madam Chair, members of the TPA Board, Clinton Forbes, Executive Director of PalmTran. Good morning. Just wanted to update you on a couple things. One, I would like to start by saying thank you, Madam Chair, for that plug. I encourage everyone to try transit. I often engage in public shaming sometimes because, you know, you look at PalmTran in this community that have been in this community for more than 52 years. And, you know, you look at all the iconic things we have in beautiful Palm Beach County, like Okeechobee Steakhouse and, you know, just all of the crafts and all of the great things we have in Palm Beach County that have been here for years that we have visited. And when you turn and look, you say, oh, I've never been on a PalmTran bus. So I encourage you, if you, especially if you're a native, get on a PalmTran bus, just try it. I encourage my staff, and in fact, I don't encourage them, it's mandatory that we ride the transit at least once a quarter. It's called Ride Day. And we put down our laptops. We, put the paperwork aside and we all go out and ride the system. And it's always very refreshing for me and, rewarding because I talk to the customers. I ask them one question, and that is, where are you going? And it's just so amazing that the responses that you get back from the public mostly are going to work. And I was chatting with one customer. I sat by her and I asked her, I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "Sorry, I can't talk to you very long. My job is right there. I get off." And so we're dropping this customer off at the doorstep of their job. And so that is rewarding and very refreshing for me. I'd like to thank the board for the Board of County Commissioners as well as the TPA for approving the TSP that was approved by the Board of County Commissioners this Tuesday, the $2 million grant. So we're moving forward with that project. Everything's good. So I just wanted to update you on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have received an update that they are arriving at the Tri-Rail station, so if we would like to, take a 10-minute break, Paul, we able to do that and then reconvene? And for those who are able to stay, apologies for the delay.
10
on
to
the
15,
information item.
10 to 15-minute recess, okay? All right, I'll call a recess.
Oh, wait, we have the Broward representative here. So if we, if we want to take a recess, we can. If not, he can jump right into
Okay.
his presentation.
All right.
Okay.
We'll just pause for one moment.
So the Broward representative is here for the presentation. Yay. Ready to. So we came up on the item quicker than expected, and it's the information item is now Broward, or the Miami-Dade representatives are arriving at the Tri-Rail station. So if you are able to give your presentation on Broward, that would be wonderful. So we have two presentations, one from Broward and one from Miami-Dade on their update commuter rail. So
Great timing.
Yep.
Way to go
so if
transit.
you want to introduce them.
Yep. Okay. May I introduce you, please?
Yeah.
All right. I'm Chelsea Reed, by the way, in the chair of the TPA. This is our Vice Chair, Commissioner Marino,
Nice to
and
see you. again.
our wonderful board. So we appreciate you walking in the door and right up to the podium, sir.
No problem, no problem. Good morning. My name is Phil Schwab. I'm in-house consultant to the FDOT District 4. So I sit in the OMD office. I'm the project manager for FDOT on the Broward Commuter Rail South project. So we have a few slides. I actually took one out because I saw Northeast Corridor was going to be doing the slide. So I'm not sure if the update is here or not. So hopefully you didn't get the update, and then I get to steal a little bit of their thunder. All right, so this is the BCR South project. If you go to the next slide, or do I have the power here? All right. So I know there's a lot on this slide. This is history of the corridor. So really, I just want to point out that this has gone on for over a decade, right? A study of the FEC corridor, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. The original planning study took up 85 miles. And the counties didn't have funding at the time. They were really moving forward. I think in 2014, nobody had funding, so it got put on hold, and then Brightline or All Aboard Florida started operations and so forth. The key points I want to point out is that Miami-Dade started a couple of years before Broward as far as moving forward with a project. The big aspect from Broward is that in 2021, they had an MOU with the FDOT. So it's a little bit different setup than the Northeast Corridor, which you're going to hear about next, where Broward County and FDOT have an MOU where FDOT is leading the NEPA study. Broward County is responsible for the implementation of the project, consensus building, and so forth. Miami-Dade in 2021 actually got into project development with the FTA. So that's a big deal. That's a big milestone. That's where they're going to acknowledge costs that are taking place in the NEPA study and the planning study and so forth. And they'll be eligible for a New Starts funding grant. In 2022, the BCR South project, and actually it was December of 2022. So it was at the end of December, we were granted project development status with FTA. We're actually a small starts. So small starts is a little bit smaller. And again, this is BCR South, and I'll give you the limits in just a minute. So it's a little bit different than when we first started the MOU, where we're looking at the entire county. The actual locally preferred alternative of BCR South. So I've got a slide in a second that'll kind of lay out the limits. So if you go to the next slide. I can do that, right? So this is actually a slide I had stolen from the Northeast Corridor, so it's still in here. I was going to take it out. So along the FEC, which you see to the right there, you have blue, red, and green, right? You have freight on the existing line, you have Brightline on the existing line, and now we're looking at commuter rail. And there's probably about 50 revenue trains, a couple trains you have to move around. So approximately 50, 54 trains we're anticipating on a daily basis, adding to the limits. And again, this would continue throughout the BCR South limits. All right, so BCR South, the LPA picks up where the Northeast Corridor, which you're going to hear about in a second, stops at Aventura. At Aventura, at the bottom of the screen to the right, you see a yellow circle around the station. That means it's a Brightline station. So they're sharing that with Brightline. We're looking to extend that service to the north. So our first station will be in Hollywood. So you see a dot on Hollywood. And then we're going to have a stop at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. And then we have another stop just south of in southern Fort Lauderdale. It's right around 17th Street. If you're familiar with that area, 17th Street gets you out to the convention center, the port, and also a causeway to the beaches. So it's a nice termini for now as far as BCR South. So this is what's been accepted into the project development phase with FTA. We're about 11.5 miles. Both the Northeast Corridor and the BCR project will utilize, but it's going to be the same service. It'll be an extension of their service as we go to the north, and hopefully it goes further to the north. I know the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County are working closely to figure out how best to cross the New River. We could not get to a consensus, but we had a logical termini with the 17th Street station, so we were accepted into the project development with FTA. And again, we're looking at a small starts. The vehicles will be housed at the Hialeah Yard Maintenance Facility, which is an existing facility. Tri-Rail uses it now. There's space in there that we can do everything within the existing right of way. The Northeast Corridor is actually doing the NEPA, the environmental clearances, to allow for that. Since their study has started before us and their service most likely will start, potentially they open at the same time. They're going to be clearing that through their NEPA process, and we'll be using their documentation as we move forward. So there's a lot of coordination, as you know, or as you may not know. The FECR owns the right of way that the corridor resides in. It's a little bit different than Tri-Rail and CSX, where FDOT owns the right of way. So they own the right of way, but Brightline owns all the passenger rail rights along the corridor. So there's got to be some type of access agreement, most likely an agreement with FECR. So both Miami-Dade and Broward County are working together and talking with those entities, but they will need agreements. There will be access fees that Brightline is looking for. So they're coordinating that effort. Also, when we get into the rolling stock, that we're coordinating that. And I already mentioned the Hialeah Yard. Traffic analysis and safety are at the forefront of what's happening, right? We're adding a lot of trains to a corridor that has experienced a lot of incidents and so forth. So we're working closely with FRA and the different districts and the counties as far as the traffic analysis and safeguards that can be put into place. There's a lot of grants already underway for safety, and that'll continue, and we'll adapt to what those findings are and ensure that we're incorporating those into the projects. So as far as the costs, a small starts means that the project capital costs are below 400 million. Right now, well, actually a year ago, we were estimated at 297 million. We're going through updating that cost. We anticipate it'll still stay below the 400 million that keep us in that small starts threshold. With a small starts, the maximum grant you can get is 150 million. So, but we don't have an engineering phase, so it's a little simpler process. Once you get that grant, you can move right into design and construction. Whereas if it's a new starts process, you have to go through an engineering phase. So it just takes a little bit more time, and you have to jump through a few more hoops to get to the construction. And FDOT has already programmed what is envisioned as their share of the project at approximately 75 million, and we have that in fiscal years 25 through 28. And I believe the county is working toward getting their portion, so it's a real project. So this just lays out the schedule in a little bit of detail. It shows you the BCR South project at the top, but then it also shows you the grant process that we're going through. So we're anticipating going through NEPA and finishing up NEPA in early 2024. And that's when design can start and potentially right-of-way acquisition. So from a small start standpoint, we're going to be submitting at the end of summer for a rating. It won't be for the funding, but it'll be for a rating. So it kind of really puts us at the forefront when it comes to the federal government. And then next summer, we'll be submitting for the full funding or the funding aspect of it. And you do some negotiations, but we anticipate being able to start construction in 2025. And operations, we anticipate starting in 2028.
Thank you, Phil. Could you provide just a little more background on the reason why Broward and Miami-Dade County are able to apply for these grants? Because they have that local match of operations and maintenance. Broward just passed the surtax in 2018, correct? And that allowed that conversation to proceed?
Yes, both Miami-Dade had a funding source for the operations, and that was really in 2014 when the project had submitted to get into project development with FTA. They had to pull back that request because none of the local counties had funding for their operations. So it got put on hold. Miami-Dade got their funding source in place where they could start moving forward. Broward County with their surtax has their funding source in place so that they could start moving forward with the process. And you have to plan it out, right? You get the funding source. If you're not project ready, you have to go through the project development and the NEPA. So you anticipate that it'll take a couple years from the time you start the process to get to the point where we're at now. And Miami-Dade, like I said, started a couple years before us, but they're a new start. So they've got a little bit more to deal with as BCR South as a small start.
Great question. We do talk about that a lot. So here at the TPA on our board, we all use a lot of TWAs, which are 3-word acronyms, right? So we do have the general public that does occasionally watch these videos for information, especially something like this. So if you'd be so kind, I'm going to give you some TWAs and you can tell me what they mean so that folks that are watching, we all mostly know them, but I would think it's fair to say, for example, that, you know, the FEC, right? So FEC means Florida East, right. Yeah,
Florida
so-
East Coast
Correct.
Railway.
Right.
So
Okay. And then a NEPA is what? So that people
NEPA is the
understand.
National Environmental Policy Act, and that's really tells you what process you have to go through to clear areas for environmental.
Thanks.
If you're purchasing right away, if you need right away for a project, you go through a process to evaluate. You look at alternatives and so forth. You have public engagement, which is a big part of the NEPA process. But it's really the federal guidelines to be able to go through that. And if you're looking for federal monies, you're going to have to follow that process.
Great. Okay. Just a little more clarification for anyone who might be listening. Let's also do FRA.
So that's the Federal Rail Administration. So they're in control of all the rail lines as far as safety and so forth. So you hear raise grants and that type of stuff to incorporate safety. So they typically get involved during the design process, but because of all the exposure and what's been going on now along the rail tracks, they're getting involved much earlier. And we know that there's a lot of safety grants that have been awarded. And so they're working closely with the different counties and the MPOs and the TPAs to incorporate those type of changes.
All right. 2 more. You didn't know it was going to be a pop quiz, but obviously
I
you know
know.
all of it.
I was so happy I was going second now.
Oh, We have a very
Do
efficient
I blame
board.
Tri-Rail for that or do I?
Yeah, no, you can blame us. It was actually
Alright.
us, sorry. FTA, if you could explain FTA.
All right, that's the Federal Transit Administration. So these are transit projects. So they're the ones that will lead the federal coordination. So we really can't start the process. If we're looking for federal monies, FTA will be the ones, they're going to determine, we don't have a class of action yet for our environmental document. FTA, Federal Transit Administration, will be the ones that determine that class of action. So they'll coordinate with the different federal agencies as we move through the process. And they'll ultimately be the ones that award the grant.
Excellent. And then the last one is BCR, which I think we all figured out,
So-
but just in case.
Yeah, and just to differentiate, Broward Commuter Rail, but our locally preferred alternative is Broward Commuter Rail South. So as you can see from the graphic, we don't go all the way through Broward County just yet. We stop at 17th Street in South Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone else have a TWA to ask about? No, that you're willing to say out loud?
Can I ask
Okay.
you a question?
All right, and real quick before we go to board questions, I think Valerie, did you have
No,
something?
I do see that Mayor Weiss has a question. I just for clarification, we in this county, we don't have a local funding source for O&M. So it still is in that status of what you mentioned, 2014, where all the plannings happened. And until we have that local funding source, we can't really, the county, Tri-Rail, the transit agencies can't go after these grants to get started into NEPA and all that because there is no operations to run it funding. So I was just curious a little bit about like the costs of running. And obviously now that there is that funding source that the counties are discussing with FEC, and Brightline, they're able to negotiate. A few years ago, we had a committee, this board had a committee to try to investigate potentially the northern. We funded a crossover, the Northwood crossover, to be able to cross into and provide potential commuter rail service on the FEC into North County. However, again, we don't have the operations and maintenance, or the voters it hasn't bubbled up to an actual, we don't have a funding source in this county. So just wondering about those costs, a little bit more background between the county talking with FEC, Brightline, and just kind of the magnitude of those costs, and a little bit more about the surtax situation in Broward and Miami.
So again, I'm representing FDOT
Mhm.
as far as the NEPA process and coordination with FTA to get NEPA clearance. Broward County will be doing those type of negotiations. FDOT is not participating in those.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I don't have the magnitude of costs. I mean, it's very dynamic at the moment. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. And again, like I said, the Broward County folks are coordinating with Northeast Corridor, and really all I can comment on.
All right, we'll go to our board questions, if you don't mind, sir. That'd be great. We'll start with Mayor Weiss, please, and then Koretsky, and then Drucker.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for your presentation, Phil. Couple of questions. Understanding you're not from the Broward agency, so I'm going to try and give you questions I hope you can answer. Is there any discussion going on regarding additional subsidies that might be needed for Tri-Rail due to the potential bleeding of passengers from one line to the other?
No, and in the earlier ridership models, there was not much taken from Tri-Rail. I want to say it was 10% or less as far as what was anticipated. Tri-Rail being at the location they are, really not expecting people from the east going over to try and jump on Tri-Rail that often. The eastern corridor, and again, some of the development is very heavy that's going on now in Fort Lauderdale and some of the areas around the FEC. So the anticipation of bleeding or taking riders from Tri-Rail doesn't look like it's a large amount, but there hasn't been any discussion of any type of subsidy.
All right. And then the new river crossing issue, any sense on, how that could be resolved and any costs, and you as FDOT, have you guys been looking at this? And
So the city and the county, they've actually worked together to develop a scope. and hire, and I believe they're working with the Broward MPO to hire a consultant to help them through some of those aspects that they may not agree on to get clarity on it. So I mean, they're doing everything they can to ensure they have the right information to make decisions. So they're working jointly. So that's a positive sign to get to some type of conclusion for a consensus, but I don't have a time period. Hey, sure.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amanda Kristen. I'm the transit manager with the Broward MPO. Thank you for having me today. I just want to speak a little bit to that. There is a study that the Broward MPO is brokering that the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County are paying for specifically to identify constraints and positives and negatives associated with the 4 different crossing options for the new river. So there are 3 bridge options at different heights. And then of course, a tunnel that I'm sure you're a little familiar with the discussions around the tunnel. That study is about halfway through. It's expected to be concluded in about 4 months. At that time, we'll have some recommendations and some stronger dollar amounts associated with each of those options, as well as some stronger environmental and community impacts associated with each of those. So, and I will leave my information if anybody wants any more information about the Broward commuter rail from the MPO perspective. Thanks, Phil.
All right. Mayor Weiss, any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, lovely. Mayor Koretsky, please.
First of all, thank you very much for coming here to share with us, because we can learn from that quite a bit. Just for the record and a little bit of humor, you know, I did grow up in Fort Lauderdale. I am a flying owl, that's the humor. I did escape there 42 years ago, and I live up in North County. It'd be interesting always to learn. I'm sure you have a heat map and ridership. That's something, just seeing that, you know, opens minds up on how effective something like this could be. So, and I say that from a perspective, because again, since I live in North County, everything we do, we're at the far end. So everything we do here is never going to bring what we would want. We need to tie in the county to the north, you know, so, and so you're poised, you know, between Palm Beach County, and so Broward will to some degree get some of the best benefits, if you will, when everything ultimately connects up. But could you get to us, you know, a heat map in the ridership that you're expecting? That'd be helpful to understand that.
Yeah, we'll be able to provide that. They're working through that now, and it will be part of our small starts rating application. So that'll be toward the end of August that we'll have that available.
Excellent. So I'll tell you what, if it's okay with the board, what we'd like to do is we do have our other presenters here. I have a feeling that you might have a more full spectrum of questions once we have everybody's presentations. So please leave your cards up if you have something specific to the Broward County FDOT District 4 representative that we have here right now. Will you save it until after everyone's presented, or do you want to? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, specifically, go for it.
You said specific. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. Who owned those stations, the Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale? Are those existing, or are those going to be shared stations?
Well, they're proposed stations. They won't be shared. They won't be Brightline stations. And in fact, Brightline initially had indicated they wanted to be at the airport. So we were anticipating a shared Brightline commuter rail station, and they've since said they don't want to stop there. You know, they've since added the stop at Aventura and Boca, and they're looking at their operations, and they feel that they don't want to stop at the airport any longer. So it'll be strictly a commuter station.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Schwab, for walking in the door and directly up to the podium. So please do stick around. I'm sure we'll have some questions after everyone else has presented. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're actually going to move along. We have the Chief Planning Officer of the Transportation Planning and Policy Division of Miami-Dade County Department of Transportation and Public Works. And this is Lisa Colmenares, as well as Gabriela Serrata, who's the Chief Infrastructure Planning and Systems Developer for Miami-Dade County DPTW. So I see you both are here. Thank you guys so much for making the trip and getting here so expeditiously. We really appreciate it.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Lisa Colmenares for the record, Miami-Dade Department of Transportation and Public Works Chief Planning Officer. And with me, I have Gabriela Serrato, Chief of Infrastructure Planning for the department. So we wanted to provide you a very high-level overview of where we are with our project of the Northeast Corridor. And I know you just heard from my colleagues at the north for the Broward Commuter Rail. Okay, so just a little bit of history. I know most of you are familiar. We have been studying ways to improve mobility in Miami-Dade County for decades. And as early as the 90s, we have been studying mobility in Miami-Dade County in partnership with the South Florida Regional Transportation Agency, the Department of Transportation and Public Works, and also with our Metropolitan Planning Organization, now the Transportation Planning Organization for Miami-Dade. We have evaluated rail and also bus rapid transit for the entire region. In 2016, the Miami-Dade TPO adopted our SMART plan, and where we have 6 corridors that are part of the SMART program. And the Northeast Corridor is a key component of the SMART plan. In 2021, there was a land use scenario study that looked at visioning, that worked with the communities, that looked at how our population growth had been, will be projected for our entire region. And that helped us also in determining what would be the locally preferred alternative, which was adopted in 2021 for the Northeast Corridor, which is commuter rail. So we have many users sharing the corridor. And right now we have for freight, we have the Florida East Coast corridor up to 24 trains daily. We have the Brightline, which is intercity passenger rail that goes from Palm Beach to Miami. And we will have more trains going up to all the way up to Orlando. We have 36 trains daily. The South Florida SFRTA Tri-Rail is going to start their downtown link by the end of the year projected, and we have 38 trains daily. And then the Northeast Corridor, we have 50 trains daily approximately that will be also sharing the corridor and the right of way with all of these other users. So we are coordinating, and we have monthly coordination like twice a month that we coordinate with all of our partners on the use of the corridor and on different governance aspects. So what is the purpose and need of the corridor, which is a very key component when we start the planning process and we start looking at planning and the environmental documents, and that's where we are today. We are in the project development and environment of the process. We look at increasing regional mobility. This is a regional corridor. As you know, we are in South Florida, where we have commuters coming all the way from Palm Beach, Broward to downtown Miami every day. So we want to make sure that we provide mobility options for all. We also want to reduce congestion. We have very limited corridors and right away along I-95 and the Turnpike. We all know that. And we wanted to provide transportation needs for all of our residents that are multimodal in nature. The need for the corridor, we want to make sure that we provide rapid transit service, and that's part of advancing our SMART program, improving multimodal connectivity along the corridor and the stations. That is why we also worked in partnership with our TPO to look at land use visioning, economic mobility, and also looking at first last mile connections to get our passengers to the different stations along the corridor, and reducing traffic impacts along the roadways and making it safe and minimizing vehicle pollutants, and supporting economic development. One of the things that we have been doing as we're working on our planning and environmental is working also with multiple developers and multiple municipalities along our corridor as we are advancing our program in the Northeast Corridor. So we currently have advanced 2 of the stations The two bookends, if you may, we already have the Miami Central, which is already in use by Brightline, and we also have been advancing stations there. We will be sharing the station with SFRTA for the Northeast Corridor, and also the station at Aventura, which opened in December. So there will be some station improvements to accommodate. The corridor is 13.5 miles, commuter rail corridor, and there are proposed stations also in Wynwood, the Design District, Little Haiti. There are two stations in North Miami, one at FAU and also one at Northeast 123rd Street. So there's also a proposed vehicle maintenance facility at the FDOT Hialeah Rail Yard. And we did hold on Monday a meeting to capture those communities and in an open house type of format. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gabby Serrato.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. So our stations, particularly, the majority of them are going to be about 400 feet long. And obviously, we have to work on it. One of the things is, obviously we have the two main central stations, Miami Central and then Aventura. But obviously we have 5 new stations coming in between those two stations right now. So our stations themselves are about, like I mentioned, about 400 feet long. One of them is a little bit longer than that, but because we're already working with the FEC right away, we will not be doing any takings itself. It's all property. For the majority of it is property that either the county or the within the FEC right away itself. Obviously, like any standard, BRT station, sorry, this skipped ahead, but, it's going to have the, sort of this similar features of what you're seeing today, sort of in Brightlines with the lighting, ticket kiosk, and the different canopies and so forth, right? Trying to make it as easy and convenient for people to be able to choose this mode over the other ones. So this service itself, we're talking about 30-minute peak headways on it, obviously from 6 to 9 and 3 to 7. After that, we're talking 60-minute headways, including the weekends, but their service plan is basically 5 a.m. until midnight. So it is pretty robust service that we're trying to provide, again, because, we have all of these stations and we do, we have the overall demand. And sorry, I thought that I skipped it. She was taking a picture. All right.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you will be, everyone please will be providing their slideshows.
Okay,
Afterwards.
perfect.
So
Great.
any of our board, if you're concerned, plus also you can watch this entire thing on YouTube
That is
and
true.
screenshot it on your computer, but sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
No, no worries. Thank you. So like Melissa, and I'm sure Phil mentioned, we are coordinating with our Broward County partners themselves. We do have project meetings, I believe every month or so, where we decide, we try to discuss as much as possible the design details, the stock that we'll be using, obviously the number of train carts, because we're not assuming that our stations, our service are just going to end at County Line. Obviously it is with our hope that obviously continues on. And Broward is working towards that, which is great. And obviously the sharing of the Hialeah facility where our trains are going to be maintained, washed, getting prepped up, getting all oiled up and ready for service. And obviously the safety measures with FRA and everything else along those lines. So there is great levels of coordination that are already taking place with our partners to the north overall. And then basically, this is a little bit of our timeline. We are a little bit ahead of everybody else a little bit, right? So we've already have the AA, we already have entered into our planning and engineering phase, preliminary engineering phase. This year, we have been going through the rounds of public meetings. In February, we held public meetings in the corridor itself to obviously announce the project to the community. And like Lisa mentioned, we just held literally this week a meeting to talk about with our Hialeah neighbors about basically what will be the impacts, potential impacts to more trains coming to the Hialeah yard. We're talking about noise, we're talking about, basically stormwater, potentially what these additional trains will be, how will it impact the community. Thankfully, our findings have shown that it's minimal impact. So, at this point is, we're getting sort of the green light, continue the green light to go ahead. It is our intent to basically complete our NEPA process and project development by October of this year. Because we want to move forward. Miami-Dade County, definitely the county itself is one of our obviously we're an implementing agency and we're moving things forward for all of this and start the official engineering phase, which is going to take, obviously approximately about 2 years to complete. And then, if everything continues to go as well, construction ready, first shovel in the ground by October. We still obviously cannot say what quarter, but it is our intent to be there in October 2025. And then start of service, 27, 28. Obviously, there's a testing window that takes place. And then basically we fully start, hopefully full rollout of service in 28. So we're full steam ahead. Again, this is one of those corridors we have planned it for a very long time in our region. And so it is our intent to implement it. And like Lisa mentioned, she is our project manager for this project itself. So she'll be able to answer, all the different questions. I am the new infrastructure and planning manager for Miami-Dade County. And if anybody wants to go ahead and take a, obviously share your opinions and everything else, or visit our project webpage for any additional information. And with that, we'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you and to the Broward County representatives as well as making the trip all the way up here to share with us what's happening just to the south of us. We are one urbanized area, so it's very exciting to see the advancements that Broward County and Miami-Dade County are making with their transit agencies. And you guys, just a little bit more background on you're with under the Miami-Dade County Department of Transportation and Public Works, which runs transit and builds roads and all of that. So, right. So you and bike lanes.
Correct. So the Department of Transportation and Public Works is an agency of Miami-Dade County. We are an implementing agency. We work very closely with the Transportation Planning Organization, which is obviously in charge of all of our, making sure we are comply with all of our federal requirements and helps us out. And also make sure that we can move forward with all of our program. And we work in close partnership with our TPO. And also with the Florida Department of Transportation, they are a funding partner on this project. So we are hoping to secure 50% of our capital investment grant, CIG, new starts. And DOT has contributed around, I want to say between 18-19%, because of the remaining 50%, they don't contribute towards the right of way. So our contribution, local contribution, is around 30% of the project. So I figure that might be helpful to share with you.
And I just want to mention that this board, the TPA board, has prioritized capital for for Tri-Rail, for trains, and also for Palm Trend as well. But we also funded the northern crossover, so that allows CSX crossover onto the FEC, but as well as the northern layover facility for Tri-Rail, which was a huge investment. It's one of our number one project on one of our funding lists, but it's over $40 million that should be under construction and being completed soon in the next. I know we lost our Tri-Rail representative, but that's a project that this board has prioritized funds to have a layover facility for those, what you guys were talking about in Hialeah, for when the time comes that we have that service in this county. I know we have some questions. Yeah.
We do have a couple questions. So I've got one to my right, my Vice Chair, Commissioner Marino.
You referenced the workshop that we had, Valerie. You referenced the discussions that we had in 2016, 17. And, our biggest issue is it was such a new thought with Brightline and the rail and the tracks up there and the crossover, the Northwood crossover, that FEC really wasn't talking to us yet about what it was going to cost to travel on their tracks, the lease costs or however it was going to be incorporated. Is that cost of this commuter rail traveling on FEC, how is that covered?
So currently in our cost estimates, we have some sightings at the stations. And I know that when we have been in discussions with, for example, with Brightline, they were discussing with us that maybe a third track would be needed for their operations, but we have not seen those numbers yet. So at this time, we have only included the cost for sightings at the station based on the numbers that we have for our operations and the operations that are currently reflected as per the trains that we're seeing operating and futurely operating on the tracks.
And again, we don't have a dedicated funding source here. So that was also one of the biggest issues of doing. I think there were 13 additional stops we had talked about between Mangonia Park and Jupiter, with basically the most important one being in Palm Beach Gardens. But the. I'm sorry, did I steal your thunder,
No,
Mayor?
no, and I didn't tell her to say that, but that's.
But the reason I say that is because Palm Beach Gardens is setting up a TOD right where they think a station should go. And which is what all of our cities along the rail corridor would do if it were a possibility. But again, it goes back to what is the cost and is FEC going to allow commuter rail on that track once we cross over from in the Northwood Crossing, and we don't have a dedicated funding source. So we're, behind the 8 ball here, shall I say. But that was important to know because, as I said, we do have a Tri-Rail representative, by the way, with Marcy Woodward. So Marcy took over my spot on Tri-Rail, being that she lives in the south end of the county. It's a lot easier for her to get to meetings. But Marcy, is there anything you wanted to add, being on Tri-Rail? Mayor, sorry. Chair, sorry.
No, thank you. I missed our last Tri-Rail meeting because our zoning meeting went very, very long, so I missed that one. But I know that we're looking forward to talking, and Miami-Dade and Broward are very proud of their dedicated funding source and let me know every meeting that they're able to do a lot of this because of that. And the Coastal Link is in conversation, a lot of what's happening down there. I am unfortunately having to sit and watch as we can't really enter these conversations, but we do have the other Palm Beach County rep lives in Jupiter and is a very strong advocate for continuing Tri-Rail up to there because he has to drive to Mangonia Park to get on the train. So I can say dedicated funding sources needed. Don't shoot me.
And just to thank you for the question and for the remarks. Just to clarify, we're going back to the question that Commissioner Marino asked regarding if basically the access fee agreement, if there is an access fee agreement in place. When we approached this discussion a few years ago, obviously without having any operations and operations maintenance of dedicated local funding source, there's no it's a non-starter, but we did approach it and FEC and was not open to really conversations of others running in their right of way. So this was a surprise to us at CEFTech to learn that all these advancements are being made on the FEC. We were aware of the downtown Miami link, but these additional plans to connect through Miami to Broward. I think the question was, is there an access fee? The cost, has that been established or anything like that? Or have they given the green light for you guys to move forward and get these grants to plan this service?
And our project delivery team is the one that is in conversations with Brightline to discuss the access fee. So it's still being in conversations between our executive, level and our team. So I don't have at this time like a definite answer, which we can bring back to you and to the board at a later time, once that is finalized. It's still being in discussions.
Okay. But in general, you've gotten the green light to be able to apply for these grants and get grants to run this commuter rail service in the FEC right away.
Excellent. Okay, great. We do have a couple more questions. And by the way, the CEFTech meeting where you guys presented that had our executive director bringing you here, we called it the FOMO meeting when we left because we got to hear everything that you guys were getting to do with the assistance of a dedicated funding source. So let's move along. We do have 2 cards. So I'm going to go to Vice Mayor Sachs and then to Mayor Koretsky.
First, you got a great job, transportation in Miami-Dade. I think many of us here in Palm Beach probably started in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and we just see the connectivity that you have been able to promote in Miami-Dade. My question is for both you and the representative from Broward. Is it a requirement to have a dedicated funding source in order to qualify for federal grants?
Correct. You will need a dedicated source of fund because you need a match in order to apply for the federal funds.
And that's also the same thing for Broward, is they needed a dedicated funding source. Now, it didn't say dedicated funding source, it probably said a match.
A match.
Do you know of any counties that have been able to do the match without taxing for transportation? If you know, it's just wondering.
I don't know the
No?
answer to that.
Okay,
We'll let your director.
excellent. Mr. Forbes, Good to see you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Clinton Forbes, Executive Director of Palm Tran. Just a slight clarification. It's not a requirement to have a dedicated source of funding, but you're likely not to get federal matching dollars if you don't have a local funding source. And that's usually a dedicated source of funding. I was proud to be a part of the Miami-Dade counties, which the department that they're representing, that initiative in 2002, which brought a dedicated funding source to that community. We have looked at this issue with our consultants around the country, and the major projects and operations are funded through typically a surtax on goods and services or some type of ad valorem tax as the dedicated source of funding. We have not seen any examples of, robust transportation projects funded any other way. And so we do have, I believe we have a report on that as well.
Yes, because that's good. You hit it right on the nail. I was thinking maybe we could do this without saying tax by having enough money, without having, if we had enough money somewhere that we could match it. But it seems to me that that's the only way to do it is to have that dedicated funding funds coming in. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Valerie's going to jump in a little bit.
Clinton, you were in Miami when they passed the initial surtax there. What year? Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Yes,
or
it
kind of-
was actually called the People's Transportation Plan. It was passed in 2002, and it included, several miles of rail infrastructure, roadway infrastructure, and it sort of had a piece for everyone. It allowed seniors to ride fare-free on the transit system, 65 and older. Later, there was a Patriot Passport piece to that where veterans ride transit free if they meet a certain income threshold. The cities received a 20%, what they currently receive a 20% pro rata share of the tax. And so the larger cities get a pretty large bucket of money from that tax, like City of Miami. And, based on, again, their population, they get 20% allocation of the tax to do transportation related projects in their municipal boundaries. If they do not use the money, part of that deal, unless it changed, is that money goes back to the pot. So a smaller city could potentially, send that money back to the larger pot.
Thank you so much. Valerie, do you have anything else to add?
And that was led, you were at the
Yeah, I was
county-
actually at the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and I was placed in the mayor's office to work on that initiative, Mayor Alex Pinellas in 2002. Yeah. Thanks, Val. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I have a
Mr.
follow-up
Forbes.
question, Madam Chair.
Actually, yes, I'm sorry. So is this what your card is up for?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I can.
While
I
we
can
have that,
propose it to
and then
her.
I'm so sorry, then we'll go to Koretsky and Fox, and thank you.
For Clinton, either way, what was the voter participation, or I shouldn't say participation, so this referendum passed in 2001. What was the response that you received from public?
So it passed by a 2-to-1 margin, and previously it had failed several times. The change in this initiative from the previous failures was the county where they were going after a 1-cent surtax. And the mayor thought, hey, let's change our approach. And we built a plan for a 0.5 cent. One of the things that communities are finding out and as they implement these projects, and Miami-Dade, was tested with this. I think they're on the right track now, but we did a great marketing campaign to get the text across the line with the community. And everybody was excited about all of the robust transportation projects that were in it. But we discovered that the pro forma that was built, the financial projection for the projects was really not aligned with the number of projects that were in, it was too aggressive. And, you know, Miami-Dade, as you probably read years ago, went through some challenges with that. I think we're back on track in Miami-Dade, but yeah, we learned that from Austin, you know, with, you know, and some of this is, you know, not the fault of the agency or those who are estimating the cost. Sometimes it's just the economy and where it goes. But we've gotten that advice from several communities about, you know, projecting the costs of the projects when you implement these dedicated sources of funding.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Poole. Thank you so much, Mr. Forbes, for sharing your information in your past as well as our time in Austin. So don't go anywhere.
Okay. Great to have a dedicated source of funding here.
Yeah, wouldn't it? That's a great idea. All right, so I see that I'm sorry, Mayor Koretsky, I'm going to bump you one more time because our attorney has his card up. So okay, all right, you let us know. Mayor Koretsky?
Yeah, this is a wonderful meeting. I can ask for information. So thank you for setting it up. Some more perspective, you know, I was a commuter from Fort Lauderdale to University of Miami and that area for 8 years. So I remember Metrorail being constructed. My daughters went there, so we used Tri-Rail to Metrorail. So I'm very familiar with that whole corridor. Some years ago, believe it or not, some in here, we thought Tri-Rail was imminent to North County. And I reached out and got the Tri-Rail ridership at each station. That's a long, long time ago. I'd like to get it again because I look at Miami-Dade as, you know, knowing that your transit journey started, you know, decades ago, then I look at you as bounding the best we could be, you know, for a while, because so it does give us a perspective. You know, I'm in North County. We have no transit. We would be the dead end stop. So it's kind of hard to picture this and sell it and whatever. So knowing the ridership and, you know, you're here also on the commuter services, that'd be the next phase, if you will. So I'd love to get truly a heat map and ridership at each station along the way. I mean, I think we could use that and we're going to need that to basically paint a picture to people on what it could eventually grow to be. So I'm just making that ask. I'm delighted I now know who our Tri-Rail representative is on the commission, because then I can ask that way too. But if you could
can
help
get
us
that for
get
you.
that information, I'd appreciate it.
Consider it done. Thank you so much, Mayor Koretsky. We'll move on to Commissioner Fox and then to Commissioner Woodward, please.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's so insightful. I think we're tasked here to start planning transportation for the future, but then we don't have maybe the pain points that are needed now to encourage maybe the general public to get on board with a tax or whatever is needed. But we also need to start planning these things. When I was looking at the timeline, I think you said in 2021, you started seeking federal funding for this project that will be finished in 2028. And so we're obviously way behind that to even get started. So I was just curious if you know, or maybe it's a question for Clinton to talk a little bit about when you started moving forward in Miami, what was the pain point there? I mean, was there a lot of congestion that it was overwhelming that I guess the general public knew that they needed to vote for this? You know, we might not be there yet, but planning ahead, we know we're going to get there. So I guess how to encourage people to get on board with this, knowing what's coming and knowing the timeline takes 10, 20 years to get anything in place. Thank you.
Yes, board member, you're spot on. In Miami-Dade, the pain point was, you know, when you go to the doctor's office, they ask you, is it 1 to 10? It was 9.5. And there was really a groundswell of support, really from the community. There was a grand jury that was stood up at that time to talk about and rule on this issue of transportation. And that was kind of inspired by the public. And so, yeah, there was essentially a movement to improve transit and transportation in Miami-Dade County. Obviously, an area that's much more dense than Palm Beach County, and the pain point was very high. The timing is important. right? And at that time, you know, it had been tried several times and, you know, traffic was getting worse. And so folks they were looking for improvements. The question is, you know, do you wait for the pain or do you, you know, prepare before the, you know, pain gets there so you can avoid it? And so that's something that, you know, I think the leaders in Palm Beach County have to take into consideration. Thank you.
All set? Okay. And Commissioner Woodward, and we'll close out questions.
Thank you. I guess, comments, maybe it leads to a question. I'm sorry that Mayor Weiss left. He's my technology buddy. Excuse me, but Valerie, we had a long conversation at a ribbon cutting because my complaint was that none of our public transportation is actually like connected to each other. As far as, you know, if I want to get from point A to point B, I need to take a bus and then a train and then, you know, different ways to get there. And she gave me this wonderful app called Transit, which if no one has used it, it's nice, but we're a little bit behind. And I was just curious as far as what you guys are doing in Miami-Dade or Broward. How much are you using technology as far as connecting the different forms? Because even with Brightline, you know, each of them have a separate app, which for the individual user is not great, because if I need to use 2 or 3 different modes of transportation and I'm having to go through multiple apps to get there, are you guys managing any of that? Are you consolidating?
Correct. So one of the things that our director and our mayor has prioritized is that innovation and that integration. We do have a chief innovation officer in our Department of Transportation and Public Works. It's Carlos Cruz Casas. And that's one of his main roles, is to make sure that we look at innovation technology and that integration of all of the different modes of transportation and technology. So he's been working on looking at best practices and how to best move us into, you know, the new era's technology. And he has been implementing some of these even for fare integration and things like that. So he's evaluating different aspects and working along with our partners as well.
Is the Broward representative still here? Did they? Oh, sorry.
And I'm sorry, as they're stepping up, this board funded fare interoperability for Palm Tran and has been working with Tri-Rail and Palm Tran. And I know Clinton's here, but and Amanda will speak probably to this as well. But there's a regional effort trying to both public and private data make it available so that it's all integrated into whatever app someone wants to use, whether it's Transit or Google or whatnot. But I agree, people don't want to download one more app. So Amanda, please.
Hi, Amanda Kristen, Broward MPO Transit Manager, and I remember speaking with you about this, or speaking about it a couple of months ago. So I am project managing the fare interoperability mobile app project with SFRTA. We've actually made some headway. We've just gotten we're about to put our RFP on the street for some back office work. And as I think you probably remember, what we're working on is an app through which everyone will be able to pay for their ticket for all of these, unfortunately, disparate and separate transit agencies and transit properties. So that is our first step in a long-term goal of having an actual interoperable fare for all of the agencies. So be able to use one fare and get on all of these different agencies in our 3 counties. But this next step is to we're finalizing the RFP to put on the street for an app, another app that you will have to download, an app that will allow you within the next, year and a half, I would say, to pay for your fares and all of the different discounts and all of the different, all of that, taking all of that into consideration on one app for all of these different agencies. And that is being managed by the Regional Transportation Agency, SFRTA, South Florida Regional Transportation Agency.
Thank you for that.
Welcome.
And I'd just like to add, the payment part is very important, but also the scheduling, because it helps people to know I need to leave. This bus is going to get me to the train, this train here. So it's paying for it in one place and also being able to track your journey in the same.
You're
place.
absolutely right. And the app is expected to have both of those components. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So I'm going to see if our attorney, Paul, do you have something you'd like to mention? Yeah, sometimes they misbehave, sorry.
For Mr. Forbes, I'd like to ask a question. With regard to the surtax history in Miami-Dade County, you had indicated that there was a vigorous campaign to get it adopted. Who led the campaign and where'd the money come from to do that?
Right. Since that time, as you might be aware, the law has changed in terms of who can actually, advocate for. So it was a little different back then, but it was an information campaign. I don't quite remember. I know that the mayor put a cross-functional team together of different departments, which included some consultants. But the actual, funding mechanism, I can't recall.
Would Clinton, based on our peer exchange we recently went to, and just kind of in general with your APTA background and all the transit knowledge you have in general, who leads these campaigns, or how do they, occur here in Florida and beyond, I guess, who currently with the current laws?
Yeah, as I talk to, my colleagues in different locales in terms of how they mobilize, typically you need, political leadership. And it doesn't have to be one political leader, but it needs to have some political leadership that's backing it. In Miami-Dade at that time was Mayor Alex Bonellas. We talked to the Austin folks about some of the political leadership who stood up at that time. So you do need that. And the business community is critically important. The business community is critically important as being a part of the stakeholders and the coalition to push tax initiatives forward. I know some locales have used PACs, for funding mechanisms, kind of to insulate the county from advocating for the tax. I recall in Miami-Dade and other places, we kind of stood as information agents, for the tax, for the projects. So we would go out to communities and talk to them about the projects and answer any questions related to the projects, but not say, vote for, the tax. We did not do that.
And in your opinion here, because we kind of keep talking around that the pain point is coming, and it takes a lot of time once you get to the pain point, it's almost too late because it's going to take a long time to get to the solution. So seeing that this is coming, what do you foresee as the steps needed in this community to kind of move forward? This is something we've all been talking about, but in terms of plan, the political leadership, the public and all of that, kind of to just move this along as we continue to just kind of plan for the future, but there's only so much we can fund with capital.
Right. And I've had the fortune to live in different communities, and I would tell you hands down, Palm Beach County is the absolute best. But it is paradise, and people are not going to stop coming here. That's just not going to happen. And yeah, we are fortunate to have spatial consideration. We're a large area, but it's filling up quickly. And trying to build ourselves out of congestion by building more roads is not the answer. As soon as we build another road and it's at level B or C, it'll be in a couple months at level F, congested. So that's really not the answer. Is really having an array of options, mobility options for the community, including cars. Look, I think we should have invested in this like yesterday. But I think we have opportunity to really start a very serious conversation about the future of transportation. As you can see, it took 8 years, for them to develop this project. And so it takes time to, even after tax, to implement these projects. Broward County, as our neighbor, I talk to them often, and they have one major challenge with their surtax. They can't spend the money fast enough, right? Because many of the projects are still in the infancy stage of planning, and they have this tax money piling up. So I think having, solid plans now, and, for, the Board of County Commissioners and leaders throughout this county to really have a serious conversation about the direction of transportation in this community.
Thank you all so much. I don't see any other cards up. So if you don't mind me using your first names, Lisa, Gabriella, thank you so much. Phil, let's hope that this is a catalyst for what we have ahead of us, and having you share your experience. We really appreciate it. As we go further down the road, I didn't mean to say road, as we go further down this process, I'd love to also maybe have a little bit of a deeper dive into what the public meetings look like, right? Because that's going to be something that will help everybody, because we need to understand what our public is asking for, even though it's a representational democracy and that's why we're here. But let's gauge the understanding, and so we might bother you guys to get a little bit more information about the public meetings. Anything else, Valerie?
No, I just want to say thanks again so much to Broward County, Broward MPO, Miami-Dade TPO, Miami-Dade County, FDOT. Thank you so much for making the trip all the way up here and taking your time today to come share with us the advancements and the things happening. And to Clinton, so glad you're here as our transit leader to provide the insights and the answers to some of the questions that we had. But yes, to Mayor Reed's comments, I hope this is a catalyst, and I look forward to continued conversations about this and learning from our peers to the south. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great. We really appreciate it. So moving along, do we have any public comments about anything that we've been discussing?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. And we don't have any other partner agencies, I believe, that wanted to speak. I think we asked every question of every agency that was here today. And do we have any other further board questions, comments, or otherwise? Lovely. All right, so our administrative items, just a few basic things. We had some information that was provided to the board. They don't have a staff presentation unless requested by the board member. Do we have any public comments on these? Nope. So the information that was covered was in your agenda. It was a few things on FDOT scheduling, Vision Zero, pedestrian crash report, joint certification for 2022, and a Q2 fiscal report. So anyone pulling that? Any questions? Nope. All right. Our next meeting will be on July 20th, 2023. If you ever have a question about any of the meetings, they're all available on the website. So make sure they're on your calendars, and please continue to do your agenda reviews ahead. We appreciate that very much. Thank you all for your questions and your time. This meeting is adjourned.